Welcome back. This is Normalized PTSD. Today we're going to be talking with Tia. Tia's a veteran and found me on Facebook. And she was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of 22-0?" And I was like, "Nope." So we started chatting and I really enjoyed her story. So I asked her if she'd like to join and then further looked into 22-0. And that's why we're discussing them all together. So I hope you enjoy her story, find something useful from it. And yeah, with that, I will get started.
Tia, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate the opportunity and really value being connected with 220. So that's how we met. We met on Facebook. You hit me up and you're like, you should check out this organization. I was like, well, I will. And then you sent me your story. I thought it was really inspiring. And I appreciate you joining and sharing that with my guests. So if you wouldn't mind, could you just do a little quick summary? Who is Tia? Where you come from? And we'll get started.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. Like I've told you, I am trying so hard to spread awareness to PTSD and 220 and the effects that they have on PTSD and the effectiveness it's had in my life. I came from a really traumatic background and, childhood all the way to teen years, military life, all of it was pretty rough. And I found myself a few months ago really struggling and knew that I had to do something. Regular therapy wasn't working for me. I tried many medications, none of them really got me to where I wanted to be. And they also had really bad side effects. And luckily for me, a friend of mine reached out to me and told me about 220, and I reached out to them that day basically, and within a few days they got back to me, got me an appointment to talk with one of their coaches. And I'm telling you, it was about an hour phone call via video chat, and my life has been completely changed for the better since that day. And it just keeps getting better. It's kind of an evolution. Once your brain is not functioning in survival mode, everything seems to work differently, and it seems to be growing every day, stronger in the right direction. And so, if I can help anybody else out there that's struggling with it, that's my mission from here forward.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's basically how I started. Once I saw that I could improve myself, I wanted to be like, oh, wow, I want to give this to other people, see if maybe this helps. And then that's what led me down this path of talking with you and other organizations and other people would be like, okay, well, what helped you? Because, like what helps me may not help everybody else. So
Absolutely.
I love that you're doing what you do. I think you're doing awesome. So I just wanted to touch on a few. You touched on survival mode for the
Yeah.
brain. So what was it like when you were able to switch that off? Like how long? Like if you were just to guess, how long do you think you were in survival mode?
My whole life.
Right.
From the
Yeah.
time, yeah, for so as a baby, I was in a very toxic environment with my parents. My parents were both alcoholics and very angry at each other. And so I've actually seen a TED talk where you can actually get somewhat of trauma in the womb, based on your mother going through stress and giving you excess cortisol. So it might even actually have started from the time I was being like I was growing in the womb.
Mm.
Um, and I've known pretty much my whole life that I was struggling. Like I always knew, like, my brain's not functioning correctly. Like, is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is it ADD? Like, do I have all these things? Like, why can't I function like a normal human being? Like, I've never been able to have any sort of structure in my life. It's just been get myself through each day and hope that everything turns out okay.
Mm.
And it was kind of a wild roller coaster of ups and downs. Um, I've been homeless several times, and been in debt and had horrible relationships, because when you're in that place, you don't really know your worth, and you just accept that you have people in your life. Like, it's not about quality, it's about quantity. And I
Right.
was like, okay, as long as I have lots of people in my life, I'm doing okay. um but the day that I went through the session, um Dr. Arnell is who I worked with. She told me, when we got done with the session, she said, you might be a little tired, do your best to take, if you need to take a nap, take a nap, let your brain, rest or whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah. Luckily for me, my kids were out of town, so I had the freedom to relax and take naps if I needed. And I'm telling you, I think it was an hour or two after I got off the phone with her, I was like, oh, yeah, she was right. I need a nap. And that nap lasted for 2 days. I laid down and I would fall asleep for, I don't know, half the day, wake up, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go back to sleep. And I did that off and on for 2 days. And then there was just this part for about, I want to say at least 3 weeks, where I felt broken. Like I had no motivation. I had no get up and go. It was just kind of like, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. Like I didn't want to
Hmm.
talk to nobody. And I reached out to Dr. Arnell, and luckily with 220, if you work with them, they are there for you for forever. Like it's not a, okay, you did your session, all right, have a nice life. I reached out to her probably at least a couple times a month, and I reached out to her and I was like, what did you do? Like, I think you broke me.
Yeah.
Like I think you broke me, because like I was 100 miles an hour and always go, 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 go. And she said, yeah, that's what it's like to be able to relax. And your brain has been at alert for so long that it needs to rest now. Like this is, we shut it down, shut off that survival mode, and now your brain needs to recover. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'll trust the process. And sure enough, after about a month, I was like, okay, I'm starting to get some energy back and starting to, get into a little bit of a normal routine again. And man, like I think I wish I knew the date that I did my session so I could tell you exactly, but I want to say I'm around 2 or 3 months after my session.
Mhm.
I I have all like the symptoms of ADHD that were just through the roof, like not being able to even listen to somebody have a conversation. Everything is got it's like 100% better. Like there are little bits and pieces here that I will have to work on. I was in trauma mode for 40 years. Um, but I'm able to now, like, I'm working on daily routines. My mindset is absolutely so positive. Like going from basically wishing you were dead like every day to just being so excited for life and looking forward to the future and making plans. And I mean, I talk to everybody, like everywhere I go. I'm like, do you have trauma? Like, let's talk about it. Like I
Same.
it's so it's such an amazing feeling to go from being like dug down in the dirt and like ready to give up to like being on cloud nine. Like you're like floating in the air and like everything is new. um I told my husband, I said, we can just basically chalk it up that I've been in a coma for most of my life, because I feel like I'm seeing the whole world for the first time, because I'm not seeing it through clouds. I'm seeing it clear. And so much self-awareness. And um all the guilt and stuff I had for the way I acted when I was in survival mode. Um, so I was so easily triggered by everything. I mean, and raising kids when you're like that is really tough. They do a lot of stuff that can trigger anybody, but to be in that place where everything angers you, and between my kids and my husband, I just felt so guilty. But now I'm like, you know what, like I survived. Like I was surviving some really bad stuff. And giving yourself grace going through the healing process
Yeah.
is a big thing. Like I'm starting to be like, oh, I'm a good person. Like I used to wake up every morning and just look at myself and just think the worst things about myself, and it's so sad. Now I'm like, oh, I forgive you. I forgive you for being so mean to yourself. um
That
But
is a
yeah,
big
it's
part. Being compassionate, I don't you're 3 months in. I'm a few years ahead. But one of the biggest lessons that was hardest for me to learn was being compassionate with yourself, because you don't go from point A to point B without some hiccups. It's not a seamless
yeah.
process. You've been not you, but I'm generalizing. But like when I was going through it, was like I've been in negative patterns like for a really long time. It's really
Mhm.
easy to slip back into those negative patterns,
Yeah.
negative coping mechanisms. And I was going to ask you about that. Coming up in an environment that you said was a bit toxic, did you see any of that learned behavior being like, not only did you learn it from your parents, but then you actually, that's how you dealt with negativity yourself? Because I noticed that in my,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I from the time I think I was 11, the first time I started using alcohol, I started smoking cigarettes. I even
Mhm.
tried marijuana a few times. And it was like, oh, okay, this is how we escape from reality. My parents, that's what they do. They drink and it goes away. Makes sense.
Mhm.
I also noticed, and I always told myself I will never be like my mom. My mom, it was I say both my parents were toxic in the fact that they were both alcoholics and they made a lot of bad decisions. But I had a very loving father and a very angry mother. So I always told myself that I was going to take the better parts of them and never carry the negative, which I noticed that when I was in a bad place that it came out. And now being where I'm at, I can see when I'm slipping. That's like
Right.
today. I was just telling you there was an incident this morning with my daughter and a person driving in a car, and I contacted Dr. Arnell again because I was like, all right, I still have a trigger. Like I go into especially when your kids are involved, but when somebody does something that doesn't make sense to me, that just seems so absolutely ridiculous, it angers me because I'm like,
Right.
you're being ridiculous right now and you're wasting people's time. This is, and it's upsetting to start, but then I saw my daughter crying. So then I go into just fight. Like I want to fight this woman. I really literally want to tear her out of her car, but that's what I grew up with. I grew up with just explosive anger,
Mhm.
um, making the smallest mistake and just being just torn down into the dirt. And so it's a natural response for me if somebody upsets me to want to lash out at them. And so I took when I got home, I went through the process that I went through in my session and I de-escalated myself and I told myself, look, I don't want to be triggered by other people's actions. Either, it can be an intense situation, but I want to approach it with a steady mind and a calmness,
Right.
which, like you said, I thought going through the session, I'm like, I'm cured. Like it's a cure.
Right.
Like it's all I'm done. Like I don't have any problems from here on out. I'm gonna be perfect. Nobody can ever trigger me again.
Life is
Yeah.
amazing.
And I was like, so now I'm like, okay. And I'm not very patient. I've never been patient. I always want to learn stuff fast. I always want to be the best at everything. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, you're going to have to give yourself time and you're going to have to be understanding when you make a mistake and appreciate the fact that you're doing your best to be better.
Yep.
And look back at where you came from. That's a big one because I got a little upset at myself. I'm like, dang it, you let that woman trigger you. And then my daughter saw it and she's like, why are you yelling? And I'm like, because I'm upset. Like, you know
Loud noises. Yeah.
yes, loud noises, and this is stupid right now, and
Right.
anything that's
Yep.
stupid and wasting time. My feet are freezing because I just threw my flip-flops on and it's cold outside.
Right.
So I was like, I'm sitting here freezing, and the cop shows up, and he's like, "So what's the problem?" I was like, "There's no problem. There's no, and I told my daughter was like, when the cop gets here, you can't yell." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna yell." And I didn't. I calmed myself, and I'm very proud of that fact.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, like stupidity. Like I guess maybe I've just lived so like what feels like so long and learned so much that when I see people doing things that are completely unnecessary, it just drives me crazy. I just want to be like, why are you doing this? Like, just be smarter and be nicer.
Yeah.
And kindness is my biggest thing. I am all about spreading and telling people just to be kinder, to go compliment people, because I know it doesn't matter if you're having a good day or a bad day. I've had people randomly just be like, "Oh, I love your shirt," or I love your hair, whatever it is. Man, I am beaming like all day off of that one comment. So like I make it a point if I go out into public to just spread kindness, spread awareness, like just and it kind of angers me when nobody, like when somebody else doesn't do the same thing. I'm
Right.
like, why can't everybody just be kind? It's like so easy and it's free. um so yeah, but yeah, you've got to be kind to others and kind to yourself. Life is tough. I don't care what life you're living in. Everybody has struggles,
Right.
and everybody came up differently. I have to understand that not everybody went through this massive hectic journey that I went through, so they might not have the amount of understanding that I have. And you have to understand that some people are going through it. They're in the darkest places that they could be right now. They might not look like it. There was a lot of times I was walking around with a big smile on my face and joking, and the whole time I'm like, I wish I'd just get hit by a bus right now, but I'm gonna sit here and tell jokes, because I don't want to be the downer. I could have been like that all the time. Putting a mask on to just make everything seem like it's okay. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand there's a lot of people out there that you see every day that look like they're perfectly fine, maybe even beaming with happiness, but that's just the mask they're wearing. And so I try to tell people when someone, makes them upset because they're, maybe they cut them off and they flipped them off. And like, you don't know what they're going through. They might have just got dumped, or they might be
Mm-hmm.
going through a foreclosure on their house, or they might be severely depressed. You don't know. Just try to be understanding and not reactive to other people's negativity as
Right.
best as you can.
Uh, do you ever look back on your times, and I hope this isn't insensitive at all. This is more like how I see my struggles in life, like haven't always had it the easiest way, but
Hmm.
when I kind of see it as a superpower. I stole that from a lady named Abigail. She's going to be on the podcast too. But what she does is she talks about how struggles can give you superpowers in the sense of like, the things that you see bothering other people may not bother you,
Yeah.
because like your threshold for being annoyed and bothered, like
Yeah.
it gets a little bit higher, and I'm like, I always felt like for me personally, I see my struggles as like a positive thing. I'm glad I went through them. I made it through them. And I have a buddy, Low, always tells me, he's like, no matter how bad your day is, your success rate of getting through bad days is 100%. You're going to get through this
Exactly.
one too. And I'm like, I love that.
Yep. It's kind of like a bittersweet thing for me, because
Right.
it's like, I really wish that I hadn't been treated so badly, and I wish that I hadn't, gone through so many really, really bad times, and, had to go through the fact that I didn't trust anybody because I had so many people break trust. So even like when I met my husband, it took me so long, even though I knew he was a good guy and I knew he was trustworthy. It took me so long to silence the voices inside of me that told me that this is bad, stay away from
Hmm.
everybody, everybody's bad. But I was telling somebody at some point, I was like, I wish so badly sometimes I could go and erase all the bad stuff out of my story. But if I were to pass on my story as a book to someone, what would they take from it if all the bad stuff was missing?
Hmm.
And I was like, damn it. Like,
Yeah.
I do like that I have made it, but man, it sucked. That's, and yes, it did. What I take away from it is that I have so much empathy for human beings. I mean, human beings, animals, doesn't
Yes.
matter. So much empathy and so much knowledge to help people. Um, like I saw a TikTok yesterday and it broke my heart. It's a girl in a wheelchair, and she was talking about how there was girls in Target making fun of her, and I had to do it. I just had to, as being an advocate for kindness and for mental health and stuff like that. I stitched her TikTok and I said, there's a special place somewhere for people
Mm.
that make fun of people that are handicapped. I'm severely disabled from my service, and if anyone were to ever make fun of me, it honestly, at this point in my life, it probably wouldn't crush me, but it makes that person look really bad. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always try to think of what my actions, if your life plays out as a movie, what does that movie say about your character? Like, do you want to be the villain? Like, do you want to be the person that everyone hates? I know I
Yeah.
don't. I want to be the person that helps as many people along the way and hands out smiles instead of tears, and definitely would never want to be the reason anyone took their own life. And
Mm-hmm.
it just blows my mind that there are so many people in this world that want to do that. They want to take people down. But what I tell anybody that's being bullied or is having trouble with somebody that's just trying to tear them down is show them compassion, because they're obviously in a really bad place, because happy people don't try to destroy other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at that as that was her trauma. And so if anybody comes at me or anybody I know with negativity, it's like, just understand that's their insecurities, their trauma, their anxiety, whatever it is that's eating them up. That's not them as a human. And just have compassion towards those people.
Yeah.
Don't let it come, don't let it come inside you and destroy you. It's something that's destroying them, and they're lashing out. And that's all you can take it with a grain of salt, and just hope that I'm at the point in my life now where if anybody was to come at me with some sort of hatefulness, I'd be like, do you need help? Like, do you need a hug? Do you need a big sister? Do you need some help? I know people that can help. If you've got something that's, it's PTSD or trauma that is driving you in a negative way, I can help you. And they can either accept it or not. And another thing that you have to learn is you can't help people per se. You can offer help, but they have to want to help themselves.
They really do.
Nobody helped me as far as coming to this whole healing journey. I had to push for it. I had to work for it. I had to want it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't fix people. They have to do the work. Um,
Exactly.
because there's been times where I put myself 100% into trying to help people and nearly destroyed myself emotionally and, with my family life. And then it was a hard realization that you can't just reach your hand out and just pull people out of the water. It's almost like you have to throw them a rope and they have to swim.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because I heard someone describe it pretty well. They're like, if you're helping someone that doesn't want to be helped, you're just facilitating that negativity.
And
So
possibly drowning yourself.
exactly. So I wanted to talk to about your session.
Okay.
I was curious. Once you were able to identify ways to de-escalate your emotional situation. So like if you get triggered,
Hmm.
or you're now able to identify that you're triggered.
Yeah.
And is it easier to identify the lead up to being triggered? Is it easier the more that you walk yourself back from being triggered to do it the next time? Like, is it getting
Absolutely. Yeah.
easier?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will say, if it wasn't such a, like this morning, I thought my daughter was in an accident. So immediately I was like, oh gosh, I need to rush and I need to go get there. If I would have known it wasn't a big deal, if I would have known more information, I would have probably de-escalated myself before I left, because
Mm-hmm.
I was put into this, high intense emotional state. And I caught myself, I went into that for about 5 minutes where, I just lost control, but immediately, and I knew what I had done. And like I said, when the cop showed up, I was already de-escalated. I was able to have a
Mm-hmm.
normal conversation. I didn't butt in. I didn't yell. And then I went home. I contacted Dr. Arnell, because it's kind of like having a sponsor for like AA
Mm-hmm.
with emotions. Like, you know that you're slipping and you're hoo-hoo. It's like, hey, I'm gonna let somebody know, because that's accountability. And I went into doing my de-escalation, same thing, one of the parts of the session, and basically just closing your eyes and deep breaths, slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and just visualizing peace is what I kind of think of it as, and
Mm-hmm.
letting go of whatever it was that upset you. And I kind of go through this thing where I talk to myself about what it was that upset me and why it shouldn't have put me where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like the next time you come into those situations, it kind of pops this little thing in your head like, hey, remember the last time? This is where we don't want to be. Um, but some of the, like, and humans are you're gonna have emotion. And that's one thing Dr. Nell has talked to me about, is when an intense situation comes around, you're not gonna be a robot. You're not gonna be there and be like, well, this is no big deal, okay, we'll just handle it. um no, you're gonna have emotions. And I just hope I can get to a point where I'm extremely calm. Like, you can be a little worried, but like, I just want to be calm, because I don't like being in that point where my heart's racing and I literally want to pounce on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um I want to be able to be like, you know what? I'm extremely upset, or I'm extremely anxious, or whatever right now, but physically I am going to just control it. Gaining the control. I feel like it's you ever watch those videos where they're training dogs that are absolutely like just mean and
Yeah.
foaming at the mouth, and they're just pulling on the chain, and it's like, it takes time to train those dogs how to control their emotions. A lot of them have been triggered by something, and teaching them it's safe, teaching that, whatever it is, it takes time to learn to control the dog and to help the dog learn to control itself. Same way
Mm-hmm.
with people. um but it's gotten way easier.
That's
i
awesome.
went I went from having screaming, just screaming fits, outbursts and stuff like that on a daily basis, I'd say anywhere up to 20 or 30 times a day,
Mm.
to now where in my regular day to day, I haven't had any. Today I would say it was probably
That's
the
awesome.
first time in 3 months that I've actually like blown up and kind of lost my cool. But I didn't drag the woman out of her car, and that's kind of what was going through my mind. So I'm doing good, I think.
Progress, right?
Progress. Yeah.
So you mentioned something that really kind of like resonated with me, and what it was is I used to think that I went 0 to 10,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
when people would talk about their ADHD or
Hmm.
ADD or whatever, like I would always be like, well, maybe I have that,
Hmm.
and it like I didn't really put the two and two together until I was just chatting with you, but what it reminds me of is when I get triggered, it's like sensory overload, which
Yes.
almost comes across as me feeling manic, which
Hmm.
in a sense is just like ADHD because I can't listen to everything that's going on because there's just too much going on. in my head. So once I realized that I wasn't going 0 to 10, but I was always at a 10. So it was always like right on the edge of hitting that manic state where I was like just sensory overload. And
Mm-hmm.
I was able to walk it back down to like 3, 4, 2, and start catching it at earlier stages. That whole ADHD or that whole attention issue that I had really got better because I was able to de-escalate prior to being triggered. I don't
Yeah,
know if that makes
absolutely.
any sense, but
Oh, totally. It used to be public places, especially. Well, I mean, in my house, there's been so many times where the hands in the air, forget this, and like, just start screaming and just run away, like literally just run away. And now, if I get to that point, which it actually doesn't bother me near as much. It's more of an annoyance versus
mhm.
this overwhelming sensation. But I will be like, look, everybody stop. I can't talk to four people at one time. I'm sorry. I don't know who can. If you can, dude, you're awesome. But no, I need this. I need this to be calmer. I avoid any kind of massively overstimulating experience where I used to like those situations. I'm not a fan of anymore.
Mhm.
Like really crowded, like when it's really crowded shopping time, when there's like a million people, the Christmas music is going and there's kids screaming and stuff. I don't want to take part in that. So like if like around Christmas time, I order everything online. I'm not going through the traffic. I'm not going through the crowds. Y'all have fun with that. It's not for me. And I've just realized that there's certain ways to approach things that are a lot more calm and comfortable for me.
Mhm.
I don't know if my brain will ever take into, something like that and not get overwhelmed. I'm a very visual person. So if there's a whole lot of stuff to look at, um, like lots and lots and lots of stuff, I'm already like overstimulated just from looking at all the stuff. So you add in noises and stuff like that, and I'm just like, okay, okay, this is too much. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's definitely it's gotten easier. Like you said, I feel like I was at a level 10, if that's as high as you can go. I'd say it was more like
Mhm.
20, knob broken. Um,
Yeah.
but I think now I run at like a 1 or a 2 as long as I'm in a decently calm place. Like I'm in my
Mhm.
house right now. I used to be massively overwhelmed with the fact that I have to follow a calendar and I have to, like there's dishes, there's laundry, let's say we have 30 things on our to-do list today. I would get so overwhelmed with that, I would shut down. I wouldn't do anything. I'd just be
Mhm.
completely shut down. And now I'm like, hey, we'll get done what we can get done. And if we don't get
Yep.
it all done, it's okay. It used to be this, I think it was a strive to perfection, because of the way that I was raised, that I never felt like I was good enough. So it was always this, okay, you have to get everything done and get ahead for tomorrow, like that. And if you don't, you suck. And now I'm like, okay, hey, let's check some stuff off the list. If you start to feel tired or overwhelmed, we can take a break, but we're not going to stop, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
it's crazy. I notice stuff every day that is different. Um, I remember the first time I went out in public after I did my session. I went to Goodwill with my daughter. We love going there just to see what we can find. And I was walking through the aisles and I just stopped all of a sudden and I was like, I haven't checked my bag. Like I don't know if I'm sure there's people out there that don't do this. And I guess it's very common for people in the military to be, tactically aware where
Mhm.
you have an escape route and what would you do if this happened. And I don't know why I always felt like if someone got too close to me, like from behind, they were going to stab me or something. And so, yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, I don't know. But I just remember, I think it was within like 4 days of my session, it was just the most amazing feeling. Such something so small. And I guess it could be big, but to me, it was just a small thing of being able to go out and go shopping and go sit down at a restaurant and not be thinking about the worst case scenario the whole time. Like, how many times have I sat down in a restaurant and somebody pulled out a gun and started shooting? Never.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I always had this feeling like someone was going to bust through the door and just tear the place down, and I was going to have to get my kids safe. And so yeah, it was and trying to have a conversation. Everybody's just hanging out, enjoying their food, and I'm over here like,
Sweating,
yeah, sweating and like shaking, legs shaking,
waiting
going,
for Rambo to come
yeah,
in the
ready for
door.
Rambo moment. And they're
Yeah.
all just like, what's your problem? Because I wasn't paying
Right.
any attention.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to sit and enjoy a meal with people. Me and my husband went out not long after my session, and we sat in the restaurant for probably 2 hours and just were eating and talking. And I looked at him and I was like, I wish you knew how nice this is. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
huh? I was like, I'm not worried right now. Like, I am so relaxed. And for 40 years of my life, I didn't know what that was unless I was drunk or high. Like, that was, I guess that's why you go to those things, is you
Yeah.
are able to get relaxation with the downer of alcohol, or the floaty feeling of being high, and you kind of drift
Mm-hmm.
off into this ooh, everything's nice and calm. But the problem is, tend to over abuse it, like, because you don't know when to stop. You don't want reality to come back,
Mm-hmm.
like. And to know I haven't had a drop of alcohol since March. um
That's awesome.
yeah. And to not I don't even want to drink. Like, I have no desire. I'm like, it's so cool to think that reality is where I want to be. Like, I don't want to leave here. And I know if I get drunk or high or anything like that, I'm not going to be here anymore. I'm going to be somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be, off in that place where your mind is drifting, and you're just kind of, you're not here. Um,
You don't need to disconnect anymore.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's,
awesome.
I never in my life, like, I mean, like I said, I started doing drugs, I started drinking when I was 11 years old. When I was 16, I was going to bars with my dad and doing shots and playing pool, and like, that was how I thought my life was always going to be. I never saw anything different.
Mm-hmm.
um I think, I'm pretty sure to this day, my mom being 76, something like that, she still drinks every night,
Mm-hmm.
to get away. And I am so unbelievably proud and happy that I did break the cycle. Um, I watched her and her, like, it was her and her mother, and who knows, probably her mother before that, that all passed down that cycle of
Yeah.
just, let's carry this trauma and pass it on to the next one, because that's what we do.
Yep.
And
Pass on that negative coping mechanism down the generations.
absolutely. And I can say, with COVID, when COVID came out, and that year or two that everything was extremely strict, I was constantly paying attention to um all of the stuff they post about mental health and addiction and stuff, and how it basically doubled and then it tripled, and now there's like so many people, going through addiction and alcohol abuse and mental health crisis.
Suicide rates are through the roof.
Suicide rates are
Mm-hmm.
through the roof, and I'm like, oh, we got to fix this. Like, look, guys, we survived it, but we don't have to carry this forward. Let's, like, I'm just one person, but knowing people like you and knowing people through 22-0, it's like we're building an army to say, hey, we're here to help. If you don't want to live in this place, if you don't want to, continue this, then there are resources. There are things that you can do that will help it be so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
love that
wanted,
I can be living, walking proof.
right. I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned daily routines. So, in addition
Uh-huh.
to your session and learning how to disconnect, What are some other like positive like coping mechanisms that you've installed in your life?
Um, let me tell you, it should be embarrassing, but self-care,
Mm-hmm.
I think has been way downplayed. I think that it should be promoted so heavily that self-care, just a basic self-care,
Yep.
taking a shower, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, putting on clean clothes, washing your clothes. Um, Simple thing is washing your face. Um, I've always struggled with spending money on myself because I was made to
Mm-hmm.
feel guilty about it when I was younger. And it's funny, my husband's like, I love spending money. I'm like, I know you do. Like, I just,
We're aware.
I struggle with it. And um, I tell people all the time, I'm like, it sounds silly and it just sounds so tiny, but I bought myself a bar of soap. It's like $5, one of those fancy ones. It smells real good and it's made out of like goat milk or something.
Yeah.
Um, but I bought
Angel tears.
I walked through the grocery store for literally 15 minutes telling myself I didn't need this bar of soap. Like I don't need to spend $5 on a bar of soap. And then of course, my healing journey self was like, no, you're gonna buy the bar of soap, you're gonna like it.
Yep.
And so I did, and it was crazy what a difference it made because I've never been one to wash my face like take a shower, you wash your face like just with the soap
Mm-hmm.
that falls on your face, the water, whatever. But to actually like buy something specifically for my face and scrub my face, and I got out of the shower the first time and I was like, what have I been doing with my life? Like this feels amazing. Like
Right.
my face feels taking the time to like show that love to myself. Like you're worth not jumping in the shower and getting out like 30 seconds later. Like you take your time for Pete's sake. Like
Mm-hmm.
what is your rush? There's this, I don't know about you, but I've always fought this like I need to go. Like I need to get this done. I need to move on to the
That's
next
tough
thing.
to
I need
do.
to go. I need to go. I need to go. And I'm late. I don't even have anywhere to go, but I'm
Always
late.
late.
Always late.
Yep.
Like like we'd be getting in the car to go somewhere and we don't have a time to be there. And I'm like, hurry up, put your shoes
Yep.
on, let's go. What are you taking so long? And they're just looking at me like, do we have to be there at a certain time? I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
but just why are you taking so long? And now I'm like, take your time, man. We ain't got nowhere to be, like not we
Right.
don't have an appointment. Um, yeah, just learning how to slow down, like learning that you're not on this strict, like I don't know, is it a military thing where it's like you had to be there, you had to be there 15 minutes early or you were late. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always like go, like make your bed, you have 5 minutes, go take a shower, you have 5 minutes, like just go. And it just stuck with me. Like I just, like get out of bed, go get the kids on the bus, go do something, go get groceries, go. And I was like, I can I just like sit here and just enjoy my cup of coffee and
Mm-hmm.
self-care, like learning to
That's
just
awesome.
take care of yourself and enjoy your time. I've actually started going, there's a few lakes around here, and I remember going up there for the first time. I love driving. I think I talked to you about a little bit
Yeah.
about trying to get into actually doing race car driving in the spring. And so I love going out on these back roads, and they're all the curvy and stuff. And I practice going around the curves and whatever. And I found this lake, and I go out there now. I try to go out there almost every morning, and I'll take like a smoothie. I used to drink coffee, but I gave up coffee like 3 weeks ago, which I've noticed has helped so much with my anxiety. I don't think a lot
Yes.
of people understand that coffee gives you energy, but it also gives you mad anxiety.
Yeah. I'm
um
like one cup, and if I hit like the second cup, then I notice immediately I'm anxious, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh no, too much caffeine.
so 3 weeks ago I gave up coffee, which then I was
That's
like, well,
awesome.
what do I do? Because it was a routine where I went and got coffee and I went to the lake, and I was like, well, duh, you can go get something else, or you can make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make a smoothie. They have these drinks, they're like cold pressed juices at the gas station. So I've made friends with one of the guys up there. And so I'll go up there and say hi and get my little juice. And I take it to the lake and I make it a point to sit there for 10 to 20 minutes at least. Sometimes I'll sit there longer, with no phone, and just enjoy the moment. Like, enjoy being outside, enjoy the sounds of the leaves, enjoy the water. I love being around water, and come to find out water is a very calming thing for for like mental health. And so I was like, well, that makes sense. I just go park my car and go sit by the water. Um, but little things like that are life changing. Um, I know cousin of mine, she is going through some really bad depression because her fiance committed suicide, and you can tell that she's in that hole. So I make it a point to reach out to her on a regular basis and tell her, say, hey, you know what you can do? You can go outside of the house and go sit in the sun for 10 minutes and go back in the house and, do what you need to do. But the first step is getting outside in the sun.
Yeah.
It starts the serotonin going through your brain and everything. And if nothing else, like I try to tell people, I'm like, brush your teeth, wash your
Yes.
face, take a shower, make your bed, and go see the sun. And drink water. I struggle with that one. Um, I don't know about you, but they force hydrated us so many times that, like, I just have this aversion to drinking water.
Like,
And
I don't want
so,
any more.
yeah, I don't want any more water. I drink enough water. Like, you gave me enough water.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's baby steps. I know, like, and I've done it in the past, is trying to change your life complete 180, like completely opposite direction in one day.
Hmm.
They're like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to take these vitamins. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Guess what? You might make it for 3 days. You might make it for a week. You might make it for 2 weeks if you're lucky. But I'm pretty sure you're going to burn out pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
If you say, hey, this week I'm going to, like, I gave up coffee, and that was all I focused on until I didn't want coffee anymore. And then I was like, okay, what can I focus on? Now I need to start drinking water. And so now I start my day with one glass of water, and I know I've had at least one glass of water today. And having those little accomplishments makes you, like, so proud to, like, oh, what can I do next? And so I tell everybody, I'm like, man, whether it's your physical health, your mental health, whatever, baby steps, man, baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby
I
steps turn into a big journey.
They really do. And you talking about going outside really reminded me of one of the episodes I had with a guy named Anthony, and he worked for Outward Bound. And he was just, he said that he really got a lot out of nature,
Yep.
and then I
Yeah.
started reading into that, and it's definitely, there's something there, getting out into nature really kind of grounds us.
Yep, absolutely. We are actually looking to sell our house within the next year. Because I told my husband, I said, I can't be surrounded by these houses anymore. I want there to be trees. I want to hear birds. I don't want to hear the highway. Um, I would love it if there was water, if it's not on our property, at least close by, so that I can go there. Um, it's proven, they've done studies on it, that people that live out in the country away from the busyness of the city naturally have less anxiety and less depression. I mean, we live on the earth. Um, I've heard things about being able to get energy from the earth if you walk barefoot in the dirt. We're connected. I mean, we need the plants that grow here to survive, and the sun, for vitamin D, and for the earth to grow. And water, we're 70% water, so it makes sense. Like, I made a joke. I was like, I'm going to visit my body's cousin in the water, like, because majority of my body is water. So
Right.
yeah, definitely. And that's why a lot of those retreats that they have for veterans and for, mental health and stuff like that, a lot of them have to do with being out in nature.
Exactly.
Something so peaceful. I mean, if you think about it, there's just way less to process when you're out in the woods.
Hmm.
You're learning to just sit and be,
Yep.
is a huge accomplishment as well. Um, if we'd go camping, I used to have all the activities. And we took a trip up to Gatlinburg on the motorcycle, and I didn't listen. It was about a 3.5 hour ride. I didn't listen to music the entire time. I sat there with myself, with just the wind and the
Mm-hmm.
scenery. And we got to the cabin, and my old instinct was like, let's go do stuff. Let's go do stuff. Fill the day, fill the day. And my husband was like, I don't know. I'd be cool just chilling here. And I was like, you just want to sit at this cabin for 2 days and do nothing?
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And we did. We sat on the balcony and looked at the mountains and just talked for 2 days. That's all we did. And
That's
I
amazing.
left. It is. And like, some people don't think it's that big of a deal because that's normal to them. But when you're somebody that's never been able to sit still and never been able to just enjoy the moment, that was leaps and bounds in the right direction, because I left there with a whole new outlook. Like, I was like, oh, we could go do this, like, once a month, or once every couple months. We could go somewhere and do nothing.
Yeah.
Because we're always doing stuff. It
Well,
shouldn't be a negative thing.
I feel like it has a lot to. I used to use video games as
Yeah.
a
Yep.
way to disconnect, just like some people would use alcohol or drugs, which I've done those too. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just like that was another outlet that I would do because I didn't enjoy the situation that I was
Yeah.
in my life. So yeah, being comfortable with the situation, yeah, has a lot to do with mental health as well as being comfortable with yourself. I was going to ask, so 220, you're helping out a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any future goals that you like to achieve with that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going through their training in December. They train veterans for free. It's kind of like a scholarship program. And I'll go through, I think there's about like 4 hours of training videos you have to watch before you go to the class.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll do the class on a video chat. And it's two full days, I think 2 8-hour days of doing classes. And once I finish the class, I will have to work with 10 people, and do the session with them. And once I do that, then I will be certified in the therapy that I went through with 220, which to me is huge, because knowing that I could do for someone else what Dr. Arnell did for me, that's like life goals. Like,
Right.
I can die happy knowing for sure that I changed someone's life for the better. And to know that it might be hundreds of people, and not to mention how many people those people are going to affect when their life is changed. It's like this huge domino effect. And I've always said since I was little that I wanted to have this huge impact on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a perfect way to do it. And like I said, I want to get into modifying cars, and they will be, advertisement all over the cars and the tents when I go to events and stuff. And I network all the time, have made a lot of connections that love the mission that I have. So they're willing to support me in, hosting events and stuff like that. So I'm telling you, I think next year is going to be wild, and it's going to be extremely positive, have a positive impact on people. And to me, it's like, once I've reached this point, I'm like, I feel like I could die happy, because I've healed my trauma. I have taken steps to help other people heal their trauma, and there's not a whole lot I haven't done in life. I just knew that I didn't want my story to end in that dark pit.
That seems
And
to be one of the things that I'm seeing with a lot of the veterans and people that uh, share their story is purpose. Once it seems like the final step to like really getting to healing is finding purpose to where they're giving back to the community that they value and care for. And I think it's awesome. I think what you're doing is amazing.
yeah, Well, and I think that's one of the things that puts you in a bad place in the beginning is when you leave the military. When you're in the military, you have a purpose. You are keeping other people safe, and you're protecting your country, and you stand for something. And when they release you from the military, I know there's programs and stuff, but like you have to seek them out. Like they don't put you
Mhm.
through. They might now, but I know when I got out of the military in 2004, it was like, all right, you're discharged medically. Here's your little tiny disability check. Now go live a different life.
Mm.
And I feel like since it's been almost 20 years, I've felt like I didn't really have a purpose, like other than raising kids and taking care of a house, which I know it's very important, but it's not that huge. It's not this huge impact that I felt when I was in the military, of just this
Mhm.
pride of I'm doing something badass. And only 2% of humans ever sign up for this, and I wanted that. And I feel like now that I'm able to take this story and spread it out there. um I told you I've had someone reach out about helping me get a book published.
Mhm.
She asked me, she said, what's the holdup? And I said, well, to be honest, my brain's kind of screwed. Like I'm doing really good in my life, but like when I come to try to like organize something or do something regularly, I just it's not clicking yet. And um I guess they have people, that I could basically tell my story to, and they'll author it for me. And
Yeah.
I was like, that would be amazing, because I've sat down at a computer, I cannot count how many times, and tried, because I know I want my story to be out there. And that's why I'm on these podcasts, is because I'm like, okay, this is something where if I'm not here anymore, people can continue to hear my story. And so I want it to be out there as many places as possible. So hopefully next year I will be racing cars for mental health, and publishing a book, and working on trying to get a movie deal, and just making the biggest impact I possibly can.
That's awesome. No, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you achieve all those goals. We
And
should shoot for the moon.
I don't doubt that I will. I love the word tenacity. I looked it up and I
Hmm.
was like, yep, I've got that.
Yeah. Check.
Check.
Plenty of.
Not to mention, I love to talk to people. So
Hmm.
any place I go, I am always talking about it and spreading the word, and at least opening up the conversation. That's a big thing. Is like what you're doing right now, is starting the conversation, because the minute that you open up, people that would have never decided to open up and just keep it all to themselves are like, oh, I feel comfortable. I can open
Yeah.
up. I can share my story. And
So
man,
many
it's
people don't want to talk about it. And I, for sure, love talking about mental health. Like, always have. Like,
yes.
so it's like, yeah, I have had the weirdest but most awesome conversations in the most random places. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it was like they were saving all of it for
Yep.
that moment. And I'm like, you're waiting for this restaurant right here.
Yep.
It was just
No,
like,
it was
I
it
love
was
it.
you. It was the soul, man, like the human connection,
Yes,
and the domino effect. So we just got to keep it moving forward.
I agree. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. But is there anything you want to touch on before we get off here? And something I was curious, other than 22-0, has there been any other resources that's been helpful for you in any way?
Absolutely. And I did want to plug it. It's
Awesome.
Camp Southern Ground, in
Okay.
it's in Georgia. It's about 30 minutes south of Atlanta. Um, oh my goodness, Zach Brown from Zach Brown Band.
Mm-hmm.
He built it, and I that's actually where, truly, if I were to pick one point where my healing journey started, it was there. I signed up to go for Warrior Week, which is a 1 week all expenses paid. They flied me out there. They put me up in a 5-star facility, and we did classes and all kinds of stuff and just connected with each other. It's 100% free for any veteran. They also have another program for veterans that have seen war, that go through more of an intense mental health week. I would the thing I like to end on all of my podcasts is this: if someone is listening to this right now and thinking that they have no hope, to reach out to a friend, to the hotline, to 220, especially if you got PTSD, if you have trauma, anything like that. And if you're a veteran and you need some time away and you just can't afford it, to reach out to Camp Southern Ground, because that was an amazing experience that I normally would not have been able to afford. So, yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I like to say.
That's awesome. How long did it take 220 to contact you back
Oh,
after you reached out?
well, just to get my information, it was right away.
Mhm. Right.
But I think my session from the time I reached out was like 3 or 4 days after I reached out.
Yep. No, that's the same. I did their little process, and I think it took them 24 hours. And I had someone on the phone with me,
Yep.
and I was like,
Yep.
wow. I was like, this
Yep.
is
So if
amazing.
you, because like I was saying, when I reached out to 220, I had already gone to the emergency room through the
Hmm.
VA. But no, like I said, I was at the end of my rope when I reached out to 220, and
Hmm.
they reached out the hand, and we've done the work together, and it's life changing.
That's awesome. No, I totally agree. I think that they're doing great stuff, and I think you are too. And I appreciate all of it, and put me in contact with all of them. It was a really good experience.
I'm so happy.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much, Tia.
We're going to wrap things up. If you have any questions or anything, want to hit me up on any of the social media platforms, ask questions, that'd be awesome. Always looking for new ideas and new people to talk to. Uh, just fair warning, this isn't like necessarily what's going to happen, but my schedule is going to change, and I might have to go to every 2 weeks. I'm taking a job overseas, and my availability might be limited. So that's not necessarily how it's going to happen, but if it does, this is just fair warning. But yeah, if you have any questions, hit me up. Bye.